Welcome to Fuck Your Feelings.
Removal of human individual rights by using pronouns instead of names. So they want to fucking, instead of everybody having their own identity, they want to throw everybody as like into an identity pool.
Yeah, I don't see what I think is pronouns. Like, if you want to start using like pronouns, that's fine if you want to use them for yourself, but don't be forcing me to use your pronouns because I have a like a right to free speech, and if I don't want to use your pronouns, then I shouldn't be forced to because that's compelled speech, and to me, that is a violation of human rights.
Yeah, and now they're taking the stance that you're violating someone else's human rights if you don't use their pronouns. And it's like, well, hold on.
It's a huge crock of shit.
Yeah, like where do like they want my rights to end where someone else's begins. They don't want rights to overlap because that upsets people. People don't like their rights being overlapped with someone else's rights.
Well, that's the thing. Speech does not violate anybody's human rights, as far as I'm concerned. Speech is universal. So if just like let's say I go up to somebody and call them a fucking asshole, I can't get arrested for that or whatever. You know, any derogatory insert ethnic slur here. You know what I mean? I can't get arrested for that. Well, in some places I can. In some places you can, I guess.
Yeah.
But like in America where they actually have free speech, you can't get arrested for that. But like people are trying to make it so you like that's a hate crime to call somebody like the N-word or something. And I think that's bullshit. Not that like I'm gonna go around calling people the N-word all the time, but I'm also like, you know, I think everybody should have universal free speech.
Yeah,
no matter what.
it shouldn't be up to the government to decide what people aren't allowed to tell each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I should be able to go to my neighbor and say, "Hi, neighbor," instead of having to say like, "Hi, person who lives next to me." You know what I mean? Like, I'm skirting the use that we're talking about, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing basically. It's like if I go up to somebody and it's like a trans person, like a trans like female, right? And I don't use their like her pronouns because I can't tell that they're like trying to use those or whatever. In
Yeah.
Canada, you can go to like jail for that. You can get in like serious shit for just like calling somebody he because you like think they're a he.
Yeah, because it's all like they're starting to crack down on the use of phobia terms, right? So there's like Islamophobia, homophobia, transphobia, all that shit, and they're just lumping it into like, well, you can't use that word because it made that person mad. Well, what if me not being able to use the word makes me mad? Where do I come into this?
Right.
But it's not about the individual; it's about everybody but the individual.
And free speech is like the most fundamental right you can get. Like that is why it is the First Amendment in America because it's like the first thing. Freedom of speech basically protects all your other rights. You have the right to criticize the government. You have the right to, tell your neighbor to go fuck themselves without like, he can come shoot you, sure, but the
Yeah.
government can't come in and step on like your property and say, yeah, you can't say that. And as far as I'm concerned, free speech should be completely universal. Even like screaming like fire in a crowded theater, I think you should be allowed to do that. But, if society deems that you should be, stomped the fuck out for something like that, then, well, that's a different story.
Yeah, and that's kind of the blurred line that they like to use is like by using your free speech could, we'll say, start a riot, and then you'd be inciting chaos or whatever the fuck they want to call it.
Right.
So
And
that's why they want to limit your free speech because they're scared of what it could be taken as opposed to what it is taken as.
right. And even in America, they don't have universal free speech. You can't directly incite violence. Like you can't say somebody please go kill this person. Like you can't say that or else you'll get like charged. So they don't have universal, but there is like limitations to a point. But at least their Supreme Court ruled that, calling somebody a tranny or something, for example, is not against the law, which is what we need in Canada. We need like a Supreme Court with a backbone, and we need a constitution with a backbone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for the most part, we need people to fucking like realize that it's what 2022, and all of a sudden, for the last 2022 years, we've been using all these words, and now people are deciding that, yeah, we shouldn't have been doing that all this long. It's like, well, who the fuck are you, this little blip in the fucking history of humankind, to decide that it offends you and we shouldn't use it when people have been using it for fucking ever? And now because it makes you mad because it fucking gets your panties in a knot, or your man panties, whatever the fuck you want to call them, because it upsets you, now we're not allowed to use that word anymore.
Right. One of my favorite comedians, I think, put it perfectly. And he said, when anybody ever tells me that what I say is offensive, I say, so what? What does that even mean? It's meaningless. Just because you're offended doesn't mean anything to me. And
Yeah.
that's basically what he said. He said, you don't have the right to tell me not to say something just because you're offended. And I was like, damn, that's like straight up. And yeah, so you really have to check this guy out.
Yeah. Because, like, I can't remember what the comedian's name that I was listening to, but he was kind of doing the same thing. So, like, he did one of his skits was like, he was calling someone something derogatory. I can't fucking remember. But they're like, oh, that's offensive. And he goes, to you. That's offensive to you. And that, like, that's what everybody's missing, is what offends one person, the other person sitting next to them could find fucking hilarious, right? Like the
Right.
babies
It's
in
all
a the
subjective.
babies in a blender jokes and shit like that, right?
Yeah.
Like fucking that's a fucking riot. But of course, like, I don't know, probably people other than us would be like, oh, that's fucking dark. We can't talk about that. But it's a
Careful.
joke.
They're going to call you a baby eating atheist for next time.
We can start talking to people about all the women that swallow. They'd be what, baby eating atheists, right? Like, I mean, technically they're what, anti-choice, I guess, or no, I guess be pro-choice, right? They can either spit or swallow, right? Like that's
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
fuck. What if we get into that argument in front of a fucking abortion clinic? Like, oh, do you spit or swallow? And they're like, swallow. Oh, so you're choosing to kill the babies. Oh no, I spit. Oh, so you're choosing to kill the babies. Huh? It's like, you see the logic we're getting at here?
Right. I think going back to the trans issue, I think you watched that the documentary that I didn't watch, the Matt Walsh one. I still have yet to watch it.
Oh,
What
the
is a
what is
woman?
a woman? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fucking.
I gotta watch. I gotta watch that before the next podcast. But I did watch one of his YouTube videos, and on his children's book that he has, Billy the Walrus or something like that,
Oh yeah.
where the kid like tries to like become a walrus, and his parents are like giving him like, I think it's like dirt to eat or something to turn him into a walrus, and like they're gonna like
Yeah.
chop his legs off and put fins instead of like feet.
Yeah.
And they had this like trans woman like reacting to it, and she was like, "Oh, like kids don't even understand this. It's so stupid." And he like pops in, and he was just like, "That's right," and that's kids do not understand this at this age. That is the whole point of the entire book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you for getting the point of the book.
Yeah.
Like,
Thank you for
really?
proving your own policy incorrect.
Exactly. It's so dumb.
Because that's, I mean, honestly, that documentary is where I got probably half the fucking topics I got listed. It's just like,
Oh,
and
really?
it couldn't, like, he gets into so much shit in the documentary that it's like, oh fuck, like I didn't really think of it that way. And then you start thinking of it and it's like, fuck, like other people need to fucking think about it this way. But no one likes to change how they think. That's why we are where we are.
Yeah, I was the whole trans thing, like if somebody wants to be like trans, that's fine as long as you're an adult you do like whatever you want to do in your own like room or whatever, or like whatever kind of like surgeries you want to get done. You
Yeah.
like, but do not even try to like come at kids and like try to, indoctrinate them into your little like cult, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
kids do not have the option, they don't have the mental capacity to understand the choices that they're making. I think even until like 21, like I was a dumbass until I was like 25. Like kids do not honestly have the mental know-how to realize what they're doing to their bodies when they're taking like hormone blockers and puberty blockers and testosterone if it's like a female, like having mastectomies, cutting like their tits off, and that you can never recover from that if you're a female, ever. You'll like always have facial hair, even if you decide to transition. All that testosterone that you took going through puberty and like even after, you're just gonna be like the bearded lady, like,
yeah, yeah.
and it's gross, and like
And you
your
won't make
jaw
any
is gonna
money
be
on the
like,
sideshow because now it's frowned upon.
oh man, don't even get me started. Oh, I was, yeah. Let's not bring that up.
Well, it's funny because the next topic that I thought of was like I have it down as trans agenda. It sounds worse than what I'm trying to get is like the whole. I'll keep using trans agenda because that's a clickbait thing, right? So what I think the whole trans agenda is they want to basically destroy gene pools of people who listen to the government or listen to what they're told. They want people to grow up, not be able to reproduce, and just do what they're told. Like if a kid dresses up as a female once, the parents take them right to the doctor and say like, my kid's trans, and then boom, there goes that gene pool. You know what I mean? Like it's a way of population control that people don't really take into a look for because there's no surgery right now that if you have a uterus and we take it out of you, there's no surgery that we can put it back in you. So it like you're literally killing your own gene pool if you say my child is trans. Let's get them fixed essentially.
Yeah, that's true, and the same goes for like a male transitioning to a female. Like once the dick and balls are gone, you ain't having no kids, right? Like your
Yeah.
school is done.
Yeah, and that's where like I mean, you start getting like fucking microwave kids from fucking frozen samples and petri dishes and shit, right? So it's
Well,
everything
I
starts to
don't
go
even think you can.
downhill.
Yeah, I don't even think you can produce sperm without testicles. So yeah, unless they froze some beforehand, like before they get them lopped off, which I
Well,
guess
and
is
that's
a
the other
thing.
thing is like I'll just take a random number. We'll say 30% of kids that are becoming trans, they haven't hit puberty yet. They're not making any, let's say, proteins that they can freeze for a later date if they decide that they want kids.
Well,
So
yeah,
they're totally gone from the gene pool, and
yeah,
it's their
sure.
parents
That's
that are just fucking shooting the gene pool, just draining the pool, right?
Yeah. I mean, like if you're going through puberty and you're taking, estrogen while you're like going through puberty. I don't know how that like what that's going to affect for like producing sperm, but I don't think it can be too good for it. And also, um, should have lost my train of thought. Damn. While you were saying that, I was thinking about something too. Oh, yeah. No, I don't think that kids should be allowed to make this decision for themselves, just in the same way that, kids are not allowed to drink alcohol, kids are not allowed to like go overseas and die in a war. They shouldn't be able to make these huge decisions about their own bodies that are irreversible in most cases.
Yeah, and I mean, it, I think there's a point where they should be allowed to do it, but even then, it gets into like 1% of kids, or even 0.5% of kids. Is if they're deciding they want to transition, give them an IQ test. If they're smarter than their parents, or if they're smarter than the general populace decides that people are smart, then I think that would be enough evidence to support that smart child knowing what they can or can't do.
Well, I mean, you could have an IQ of like 200 and still not know the repercussions of transitioning. Just because you're super smart doesn't mean you're learned. So I don't know. I think there should be like a limit, an age limit, like 21 or something like that. Like in America, you can't drink until you're 21. So
Yeah.
you can't drink and go to a bar, but you can, cut your dick off and take estrogen. Like,
Yeah.
just think about that for a second. That's insane. And there's people actually like advocating this. Like this is child abuse as far as I'm concerned. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't let a 5-year-old drive a car, right? It's mental. You wouldn't even think of letting a 5-year-old drive a car, but you're letting like 10-year-olds like decide that they're going to be taking hormones for the rest of their life to change their gender before they even enter puberty. Come on. It's just ridiculous.
Well, there's that, and then there's even they're talking about puberty blockers in the
Right.
documentary.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, well, hold on, like if their whole support for it is because the child going through puberty is having a hard time going through puberty, so they want to pause puberty. And the way they describe it is totally fucking wrong. They use like a VHS tape. So they say you can pause the VHS tape and just press play at any other time. But what they don't realize is that if you keep pausing that VHS tape in the same spot all the time, you destroy the tape where you're pausing it. And that's exactly what's happening if you pause puberty. You're destroying that part of puberty, that part within the child, so they can continue next. They're going to have something left over from when you decide or when they decide to pause puberty. Something in them is going to be destroyed, and no one has any idea what's going to be destroyed because this is the first time in fucking thousands of years that we're deciding to just essentially sterilize children.
Right. So basically, what you're saying is, if somebody takes puberty blockers for too long, puberty will just never happen for them. Right? Is that what you're
Uh,
saying?
it could either never happen for them or it could always happen for them, right? Like it could be like I'll say binary. It could be always one or it could be always zero. It depends on what stage of puberty. Because I mean, if they're taking puberty blockers, it's because they've already started puberty and they're having a hard time with that. So it could just reverse puberty or it could lock them into puberty.
Right. And that goes on to like another thing that I was thinking about too, which was how much of a fad this trans thing is becoming. Because technically trans are only supposed to be like point like I think it's 0.1 or 0.2% of the population. And since like TikTok and like all this stuff started becoming really, really mainstream and like cool, I guess, quote unquote cool for like the younger generation, all of a sudden now you're seeing like almost up to like 1% of the population. And it's actually insane like how many people aren't actually transition and then regret it later and their bodies are ruined. It's actually really sad and it really sucks for those people because they're sucked into this like cult like behavior and they think this is the right way to go and they think, oh, all the other kids are doing it, it's so cool and stuff. And then their bodies are ruined for the rest of their lives. And that's like, it's really horrible and it's really sad.
Well, I mean, you just wait for the time where they start borrowing each other's genitals, right? Like, Scotty cut his dick off. I'm going to use that for a year. I'll give it back to him when I'm done, and he can, you know what I mean? Like, it sounds so stupid, but it also sounds so futuristic, where you can just remove and replace genitals whenever the fuck you want. And I think
Yeah, I don't think we're there yet, but yeah.
we're getting there. We're pretty close. I mean, if you can lop your dick off and then 10 years later get someone else's dick put back on, right? Like it's not going to be functional, but you still have the option to do it, right? I mean, think about that. I don't know if you know this commercial. I think it was like a War Amps commercial, and it's like the robot playing around, and fucking his arm gets cut off in the gears, right? And he's like, "I can put my arm back on. You can't." Well, it's gonna be like, I can put my arm back on. you can put your dick back on, right? Like that's kind of where we're essentially going to go. I can cut it off, but we'll get it put back on for you.
Yeah, I mean, technology is always advancing, so I'm sure someday it will be like that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be long gone, but I mean that's the way that we're going by the looks of it.
Yeah.
What else did I have? I had something popped into my head. Fuck, I'm going through my topics to see what else it was. Oh yeah, so it's the word trans that everybody likes to use, right? Like, so if we'll say in this case an adult, to make sure that everybody knows we're talking about someone with a decent level of common sense and predictions about their future, right? So if we'll say a 33-year-old decides they want to become trans, so what happens is they never actually fully become male or female. They still keep the label trans male,
Well,
trans female.
they can't ever fully become anything that they're not already born.
And
So,
that's the part
or
that people are losing track
or are
of.
you talking about like surgery?
Well, I'm
There's
talking
still
like,
their chromosomes are
even if
still
they
going to be male
fully
or
get
female.
the surgery, if they get the surgery to be 100% like visual male or 100% visual female, they still use the term trans male, trans female, but they want to be treated like a male or a female. But them themselves still call themselves trans male, trans female. They're not willing to commit to male, female.
Well,
You
I
know what I
think it's
mean?
because they will never actually be that, and subconsciously they know that.
And that's where people start getting like, because like if I walked up to a trans woman tomorrow and said, "Oh, you're a woman," they'd be like, "Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm a trans woman." I'd be like, "No, you're a woman. You don't get to use trans anymore. You're just fucking woman. You can't hide under that label anymore. Now you're stuck with all the woman shit." You know what I mean? You can't hide under the trans woman label. You have to just hide under the fucking woman label.
Yeah, no, I think the total opposite. I think they should keep using the trans label because they'll never actually be women, and that's a uh, pronoun to their actual gender. You know what I mean? Like trans woman, because they're never gonna have the DNA to be a woman, so they can't call themselves women, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I get you. But
And
if
same as men, like I saw this thing the other day. It was a bearded person, and they had like a big, huge like beer gut it looked like, and hair all over their stomach and shit. And I was like, oh, what the hell? It's like this guy's like posing as like a joke or whatever, and it was like, nah, this was actually like a biological female who like was on testosterone, has a beard, has like hair all over their stomach, and is pregnant. And I'm just like, that is just so fucked up. Like, do we even know what kind of like things testosterone does to a fetus, like especially injecting testosterone directly into the bloodstream of the quote unquote mother?
I thought you were gonna say, do we even know what the fuck is coming out of that?
Well, I mean,
Like,
it's
are we talking Men in Black
hopefully
shit now or what?
hopefully it's going to be a healthy child, but I mean, who knows? Like we don't I'm sure we don't have the data because it took us how long to get data on certain like some things like smoking when pregnant and like drinking when pregnant because people used to do that all the time in the 60s and 70s. People
Yeah.
didn't even think about it. They were just like whatever, and the kid comes out with like Down syndrome or whatever. And like people just thought it was okay. And now people are injecting testosterone into people that are pregnant, and we don't know what's going to happen. Like 20 years from now, we're going to know the full repercussions of what's going on, you know?
Yeah, they'll be running our country and we'll be like, how did they make it this far? Like,
Yeah,
what are they doing? Why are they boycotting protests? And why are they also
right.
saying they support protests? How did this messed up genetic thing get into parliament?
Right, they're gonna be like my birthing person is a trans man.
Yeah.
Try to figure that one out. Actually, by then it'll probably be so normalized that you know, calling somebody a tranny will be like calling somebody a fucking N-word,
Yeah, the neighbor again, right? Like,
right? It's so stupid. They're trying to police speech, and that's what really bothers me. Policing speech should not be a thing. I should be able to call somebody a fucking retard on Facebook and not get post block for it.
yeah,
It's stupid. It's free speech. It should be universal. If somebody doesn't like what they have to say, there's a button to block you on
yeah.
social media. You could walk away in real life. You could turn off the TV. There's so many options.
And that's what everybody forgets, that like, sure, you're talking to someone else on the internet, but everybody doesn't tell you that you can choose not to talk to that person. You
Right.
can block them. You can unsubscribe. You can do whatever the fuck you want to avoid that. We don't have to police the person at the other end. We just have to let you know that it's digital. You can fucking walk away whenever you want. Just like face to
Right.
face, you can walk away whenever you want, unless they got you fucking held captive in a jail cell or something. But yeah, like
Right.
you can choose not to be there.
Yep. And they don't want to just walk away though. They want to punish somebody for not believing the same things that they believe in. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? They want punishment for somebody who doesn't believe what they believe, and they don't tolerate people who don't believe the same beliefs that they do. And you know what that is? Look it up in the dictionary. The word is bigot. So anytime anybody ever tries to talk shit about your belief system, say you're an intolerant bigot. And if you don't believe me, look up in the dictionary, and that's exactly what it is.
yeah, and and they the thing is they won't do it, and they'll call in more people to witness them not doing it. And the more people that they bring in will just say, well, why don't you tell us? Why don't you show us? It's like, well, just because there's 30 of you and one of me, you're all 30 of you are just choosing to be ignorant. You just want to fucking argue. You don't want to address the facts that, yeah, you are exactly what is going on. You're the problem, not me. Me using the word to describe the problem and you being the problem, but not knowing what the problem is, that's the problem. Fuck, that was a lot of problems.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's why I really do not like um, this whole woke mentality from the left lately. And it's not even just lately. It's been going on for a while, and it's like no matter what, if I don't disagree with you, I'm gonna do whatever I can to get you fired, canceled, removed from social media, whatever. Your wife leave you, like
Yeah.
they don't care. Like they would rather you like they would they've bullied people into killing themselves before. So if you think you losing their job over something like that really like makes them have a sleepless night, not at all. They've bullied people into committing suicide. That's how fucked up these people are in the head.
And the best part is they very often turn on themselves when they do it.
Yeah,
Because like if you look, like I'll use Kevin Hart as an example because I think it was the Emmys, or there was some award show that he was supposed to be the host for. But people decided,
Oscars.
yeah, so they were going to go through his Twitter and they found stuff that was upsetting to him or upsetting to them. And like Kevin Hart even apologized, and they still wanted to fucking like to basically cancel him. They didn't want an apology. They wanted to just fucking get rid of him.
Yeah, they pretty much did cancel him. They said like they wanted like the Oscars want him to apologize, and he was like, "Nah, fuck that. You know what? You can like stick your fucking hosting the Oscars right up your ass." Even though like that's the thing that he wanted to do his whole life apparently.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, even after he turned down the Oscar thing, then he apologized. And then they still, after like getting him basically kicked off the Oscars and apologizing, they still wanted to get rid of him. Like they
Yeah.
wanted to cancel him and have him never like show his face on TV again or whatever. It's so fucked up, man. Like it's just crazy.
And
I
it
just can't get over that.
what gets me is like I don't want to bring race into it, but they're very often doing it to the Caucasian population. So when they do it to the African American population, no one really sees that like it's everybody turning against themselves. If they do it against the Caucasian population, oh cool, yeah, whatever. It's their white privilege. They feel oppressed. Welcome to our world. But if they do it against their own, they don't click. Like there's just something in them that just doesn't realize, fuck, like we shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, that thing should click when they're doing it to anybody, not just, African American people. Because as far as I'm concerned, like, a person is a person, right?
Yeah.
So if you're gonna fucking try and cancel one person over the same thing, and you see it all the time, like a liberal like Jimmy Kimmel can get away with doing blackface back when he was on the Man Show. You remember that?
Yeah.
And nowadays he's like big, like ultra woke, like night Tonight Show or something like that. I think it's called, and like he's super woke and he's like pro Biden, like pro like transsexuals. I don't even think that's the term, transgender or whatever. And then like and then all this stuff comes out of him, like the Carl Malone thing, fucking like blackface, and nobody even like gives a fuck because he's on their side basically. But
Yeah, he drank the juice.
And same as like Trudeau. Trudeau's another one. He got like the whole blackface thing. Nobody gave a fuck. Not a single liberal gave a fuck. They're all still sucking his cock. And then like a regular like conservative does that, or like just a centrist or just like moderate left does that. Oh, they're canceled. They're thrown off the fucking every show they've ever been on. Like, look at Gina Carano. She posted a tweet about it showed like a bunch of like Nazis saluting like Hitler, and like one person just standing there with his arms crossed, and it was like an arrow pointed to this guy with his arms crossed, and it's like, be this guy, like stand up against like the crowd or whatever. And they said that she was like promoting Hitler or something, and they canceled her.
Yeah.
Right? Because she's a white, like, and I don't even think she was a conservative. Like, she wasn't even out as a conservative at the time. She was just like a regular, like, I could not believe it. I was like, okay, so she posts a meme on fucking Twitter, she gets canceled. Jimmy Kimmel can fucking go full blackface. Justin Trudeau can go full blackface because they're like, yeah, see, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's because like
it's hypocrisy, man.
They're advocating against what they did, but people don't want to bring up what they did to cancel them. So it's like like they've basically been
They have no
converted
problem
into
digging through Kevin Hart's stuff, right?
Yeah.
But Jimmy Kimmel gets a free pass? Like, why? It's weird, right?
Oh, I'll be right back. I think my food's still cooking.
Fair enough. Yeah, don't worry. We're going to be talking more about Justin Trudeau. That's for sure. Because I got a lot to say on that issue. And Biden, for that matter, if there's any Americans listening. That fucking vegetable.
All right, there we go. I could hear a beep, and I'm like, what the fuck is the beeping? Then I realized I got shit in the stove, and I'm like, oh, fuck. How long has that been beeping for?
Damn. Oh, fuck. Yeah, so I got a book in the mail the other day. I bought that Trudeau book.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That children's book, How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom. It's fucking hilarious, dude. It's so funny. I'm gonna read that to my kid someday. Yeah. It's gonna be awesome. You don't like. I'll be like, yeah, you don't have to worry about this evil motherfucker, but yeah,
you got to worry about his kids now.
Yeah, probably.
Although, well, yeah, we'll have to worry about his kids, but not their kids, because his kids will be trans by the time we get in office. So, I mean, there's some benefits going on here.
Yeah, with any luck, they'll stay the fuck out of politics after seeing how much hate their dad gets.
Yeah.
This motherfucker is the most hated person in Canada. He is the most hated person in Canada. And I hate his guts. And I don't usually like hate people, but this motherfucker, he is a piece of trash. I hate everything about him. The way he talks, the way his mannerisms are, the way he's so smug and arrogant, and he never admits that he's wrong. He's basically a fucking psychopath.
But he's a straight white male. He is never wrong.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Except when he's doing blackface.
Yeah, we don't have that in common. I've never fucking did that.
I've never done blackface either. Does that mean I'm more virtuous than Trudeau?
Fuck.
I'd like to think so.
They're going to cancel me because I dressed up as a Ninja Turtle for Halloween. I had green face on, right?
Oh, shit.
Fuck. I had green and red face. Oh, my fuck. I shouldn't have been Raphael when I was a kid.
The greens are coming for you, yeah. Damn.
Oh, my fuck. What else we got?
Yeah, let's talk about Trudeau and how he's fucking ruining the country.
Yeah.
We got to get into that. We got to get into Trudeau and like Biden, the fucking vegetable.
Yeah. What was it? Fucking Tom McDonald. He ate 1,000 Xanax for dinner. What are you talking about, Biden?
Oh my god. Dude, the worst part is I think he's on like uppers to like keep him awake. Like I'm pretty sure they're giving him like meth to like keep him like actually coherent, and he's still like falling asleep, which is crazy.
Could you imagine? Hey, Mr. President, you need to take this hit before you go talk. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
He just moves his head in the general direction of the meth. He can't even speak at that point.
Hook it to my veins.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, okay, so they have the vegetable and we have the dunce up here. Like this guy is a World Economic Forum lackey, and his whole cabinet is basically WEF, and he's slowly but surely turning this country into a police state. And yeah, what are your thoughts? He's taking away free speech and taking away the right to protest.
As of now, he's kind of made it like a dictatorship at this point. Like because he's got the NDP basically sucking his dick. So he has a majority government, even though Canada decided we don't want a majority government. He has
right.
It.
Yep.
So
exactly.
Like no one in Parliament right now is doing anything to stop him from doing what he's doing. The
problem is the way that it works is he has as much power as Jagmeet gives him.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even matter what the Conservatives do at this point or anyone else. As long as Jagmeet is backing him up with those votes, he can pass anything he wants, and he can stay in power as long as he wants. A no confidence vote, they would just back him. So,
yeah, because they even called for it. Actually, I don't know if they actually called for a no confidence vote, like during the whole Freedom Convoy thing, right? Like they
didn't. There was something similar to it. There was something similar to it. They were voting on invoking, or I think it was revoking the Emergencies Act. Yes, they were voting on revoking the Emergencies Act, and basically Trudeau said it's pretty much a no confidence vote. So basically they had to vote along party lines or be basically kicked out of the party.
Yeah, and they're
is something a
to lose
that
free government money that they're getting for just fucking being yes men. Like
and there was liberals that spoke out against Trudeau and the Emergencies Act that still voted with him.
Yeah.
So think about that for a second. Those people were just mouthpieces and shills as far as I'm concerned. Because I would have fell on my sword. I don't care if I was the only person to vote. I would have voted to revoke it. I don't care, like, even if he kicked me out of Parliament, I wouldn't give a fuck. Because I have integrity. That's something that apparently none of those fucking Liberal MPs have.
Well, we're not politicians, right? Of course we have integrity.
That's a good point. You don't usually get into politics as a virtuous person, so
But it's funny because no one really seen that opportunity to basically tell him to go fuck himself, to vote against him, even if they're on their own party. But what they didn't think about is if they did that, they could have replaced him like the next election. Everybody who was against Trudeau, if someone in the Liberal Party basically told him to go fuck himself and cross the fucking floor and voted against him, that person would have been the next prime minister.
That person would have at least stood up and maybe been like the next Liberal Party leader, because I don't think the Liberals will win in the next election. I can't see it happening.
Yeah.
I can't see it happening. I think Pierre Poilievre is going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada in 2025. Calling it now.
Yeah. He's what? Conservative, is he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think he's going to win the Conservative nomination. That is going to be in September, I think, is when the voting happens. And then he's got 3 years until the next election. Can't believe we still have 3 and like a few months more years of Trudeau.
I know.
That's disgusting, man.
It feels like fucking like I feel like I'll be retired by the time he's out of office.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
I know. It feels like I was like a kid when he got voted in, and I'm just like, damn. Like, I didn't really care much about Canadian politics until just recently.
Yeah.
But now I'm all in. Like, you're not going to be able to get me not to vote in another election in Canada.
Well, and I mean, even if you think about who was in before him, which would be Harper, I believe.
Harper, yeah.
So fucking he wasn't necessarily hated because he did kind of some sensible stuff. People disagreed with him, but they didn't universally hate him as much as fucking Trudeau.
Right. The thing with Trudeau is even some of the people that vote for him hate him. You know what I mean? Like, they just don't want a conservative in power.
Yeah, yeah, and
they
don't want to send out an orange vote or a blue vote. They want to keep sending out the red vote.
Yeah. That's scary. Like, and it's also really like unfortunate that just because they vote along party lines their whole lives doesn't mean they can't give a chance to somebody who actually wants like to give you back your freedom. Like, that is what Poilievre's whole campaign is about, is to get rid of the mandates and get rid of like all this like restrictions and lower inflation and lower like grocery prices and lower house prices and lower bank interest rates and stuff like that, so you can get loans for stuff. Like, he's like the definition of a fiscal conservative and somebody who actually cares about like freedom and stuff. So
yeah,
he has my vote. If he's going to be the leader, then he's got my vote.
And I mean, he's got more of a chance than the People's Party at this point because he's
more
in
chance.
the top 3 of what people generally vote for anyway.
Exactly.
And I mean, if you're not in that boys club, you're like, you could have all the votes in the world and you're never going to get actually control of Parliament.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that the NDP are as popular as they are. I think they're going to lose a lot of seats this next election, like a fucking metric shitload, because of Jagmeet Singh selling out his own party to back up Trudeau. That's another topic, but yeah, like I think they're going to lose a lot of seats. Like, look at Ontario. They had a provincial election. They lost 9 seats, and Doug Ford, who was pretty much universally hated by everybody at this point, he still got a majority, which is fucking insane. That's how much people hate the NDP. The Liberals actually picked up 1 seat. People hate the fucking NDP now. They're going to lose so many seats in the federal election. It's not even going to be funny, man. Like, damn.
Well, I mean, it'll still be funny.
Oh, it's okay. It's going to be funny. But yeah, NDP is like, you thought Trudeau gets like heckled everywhere where he goes. So does Jagmeet now. Jagmeet gets heckled everywhere. It's funny.
And the best is because he's a member of the Sikh community. he thinks, or he likes to pull the card that it's racism, but
Yep.
all the news outlets buy into him saying this is racism, but all the non-mainstream media are publishing the videos of the Sikh community saying, "You're a piece of shit, Jagmeet. Get the fuck out of here." Right? Like
Well, yeah, exactly.
it's so funny that it's like no one, when it comes to racism, no one really takes a step back from what mainstream media says and assesses it. They just take mainstream media at their word.
Right. Well, there was two videos. There was one, and it was outside of one of his offices, I believe. And he was coming out of his office, and there was like this big banner up and all this stuff. And people were calling him a traitor and all this stuff. And it was mostly white people. I think it was like 90% white people that were out there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that area, I'm pretty sure, is majority white. And then like they had him, the second video, and he was calling racism, by the way. He was saying racism like crazy.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
like, "Oh, these people are racist, blah blah." And the mainstream media was just running with it. And then there was this other one where he was going to, I believe it was a Sikh church, and he was speaking there, and there was a whole bunch of people outside waiting to talk to him, and they said, "Oh yeah, once he comes out, you'll be able to talk to him, no problem." And as soon as he came out, he went straight to his car, and they were all like, "We got questions, right?" And it's all these Sikh people, and yeah, he just fucked off, and they called him like sellout Singh and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
you know what? Like, I thought like only people that hated him were racist, right? I thought there was all these racists that hated Jagmeet Singh.
Yeah, look
Apparently,
at all
there's
these racist Sikh community members against this Sikh community member.
right, exactly. They couldn't pull that card that time, and they
Yeah.
didn't even try because they knew they would be laughed laughed at.
Yeah.
The thing is, most people are laughing at the mainstream media now anyway because everything that they pull out is just unbelievably laughable. Like they're saying all these things about like the truckers and stuff like that, and backing up Justin Trudeau. Well, I mean, of course they are. Of course they're backing up Justin Trudeau. You know, he's paying their bills. He's like funding their entire like corporation. He's
Yeah.
funding their paychecks. So of
Yeah,
course they're going to be
he's
like
allowing
good
them
to him.
expansion as well. Like he's giving them more money for talking out instead of just what he normally gives.
Right, and that's why I prefer independent media, like Rebel News. True North is a good one. I'm actually really loving True North lately. I don't know if you heard about that.
No, I fucking honestly, I don't even fucking like. I think I'll look through like CTV, CBC, and Global and just laugh and then
Oof.
close it all. And it's just like this is what 90% of Canada is listening to is those three fucking stations.
It's good. It's good to like look at that stuff just to get like a feel of what like most people are like consuming,
Yeah.
because it's kind of hard um, to put yourself in like other people's shoes when you're looking at this stuff and realizing it's all like fake. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, here's an example I have to get to is when all this fucking COVID shit started happening, right? Me and we were both on the same fucking page that it had to have come from somewhere, right? Like it didn't come from just someone eating a bat, right? Like it was manufactured to come out of somewhere. And we were just fucking dismissed. Like, no, you're being a conspiracy theorist. Like, go away. We don't believe you. And now it's in the news that they're launching studies to find out what lab it came from. And
Right.
China's like, well, wait a minute. No, you said it didn't come from us. And they're like, yeah, well, we're going to do a study that's going to cost probably $5 billion to confirm what the conspiracy theorists at the beginning of this pandemic told us happened.
Oh
Right?
no,
Like,
you forgot one very important important part about that whole thing was not only were they conspiracy theorists, they were also racist against Chinese people.
yeah.
They were calling people that were saying that it was the Chinese virus that was released from the lab, they were calling them racist.
Well, I mean, look at
Like
fucking
it's come on, really?
look at
Like
Donald
you
Trump.
throwing the race card at everything? Come on.
He called it the China virus. and
Right.
everybody called him a fucking racist. And it's like,
It came from China.
if it comes from China, you can call it the China virus. If it comes
Oh.
from Chinatown, you can't call it the China virus. You know what I mean? Like there's two total different countries going on here, right?
If it came from Great Britain, they would fucking call it the Great Britain virus, and they'd probably be calling that today because they would, because they hate Anglo-Saxons.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
I mean, look at it this way, like a Swedish meatball, right? Am I racist for using the words Swedish meatball, even
no,
though it comes from Sweden, right? Like it's the
right,
same as the China virus. It comes from China.
right, exactly. But even like saying that it came from a lab in Wuhan, they called you racist for that too.
Yeah. Oh
Like
yeah.
not even calling it like the China virus. Like, oh yeah, COVID-19, yeah, that came from a lab in Wuhan. It's like, oh my god, that's racist, bro. Like, what? How is that racist? Stating a fact, like a fact that was like pretty well known at the time and now is like nearly 100% confirmed now. Like, come on. So stupid. Like they'll throw the race card at everything.
Well, it's funny because I can't remember if I sent it to you or not, but there was it was like an emergency pandemic study or an emergency pandemic like situational practice scenario that they ran. I want to say 6 to 9 months before COVID started happening. And they basically lined out everything that was going to happen, from locking down airports to locking down country borders, talking like how the people would react. And then the pandemic that they were talking about almost translated 1-to-1 to what actually started happening.
Oh, really? Damn.
Yeah, like I'll have to find it later, but it was basically just like a whole bunch of scientists and I want to say like poli-sci majors and shit like that, just sitting around. Basically, I guess they'd be playing like the game Plague Wars or the pandemic game, right? Like, this is what the virus is. This is what it's going to do. How do you think everyone's going to react? And they pretty much fucking nailed it, like spot on as to how everything is still going.
That makes sense. Well, you knew about the book that Klaus Schwab wrote, right? He's the leader of the World Economic Forum. Did you hear about that? About the book that he wrote?
I must have heard about it. I don't think I looked into it.
Okay. Well, at the start of COVID-19, he wrote a book, and I believe it came out in 2021 or 20. I think it might have been 20 actually, like when it first started. So he was able to write this. It's kind of interesting. So it's called COVID-19: The Great Reset. And
Oh, okay.
people, people keep talking about like this great reset thing, and people are like, what a bunch of conspiracy theorists or whatever. Like this guy who looks like a Bond villain. He's like a fucking bald German guy who's the head of a fucking multinational international corporation. And he's talking about a great reset of the economy. He wrote a book about it. But I'm the conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
He wrote the goddamn book saying that this is a good opportunity for an economic reset. Like, and that you're gonna, like, by 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. You won't have like property rights. You won't have rights to like any of your property whatsoever.
Yeah,
Like,
like
this is a whole like other rabbit hole that we could get into another night. But I think you should look more into this, because I know you do. I've talked about like the World Economic Forum a few times to you, but this is actually really concerning.
So here I found so what I was talking about, like all the leaders meeting and shit. Apparently it's called Event 201. So this is off what parlho.com. Event 201 conspiracy theory coronavirus. A biological war per se destroying the entire world in 18 months. Statisticians have been making claims that by the end of 2020, 60% of the entire population will have COVID-19. Now, this was published March 20th of 2020, so 2 years ago. But apparently it took place around November of 2019, which, yeah, so in October of 2019, Bill Gates and other world leaders, including White House officials, were part of an event called Event 201. Moreover, the event was held by Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Well-known pharmaceutical giants and Pentagon leaders discussed the effects of a virus that could eliminate 60 million people in 18 months. Only two people can make such accurate predictions, either Nostradamus or the person who created the virus. Nonetheless, the timing could not be more uncanny. 3 months and the course of the entire world shifted. Nonetheless, a study this expensive must have had a sponsor. No individual can do this without tremendous backing. One thing is for sure that either some government or some giant pharmaceutical is involved in the outbreak of COVID-19.
Okay.
And it just keeps going more into
I'll
like
I'll
all
give you
this.
another thing to add to your conspiracy theory. The fact that Moderna has a patent on some of the genes in the COVID-19 virus.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't that doesn't prove something very sinister is going on, I don't know what does.
And they like to say that the reason for those patents is because they need the patent to cure it, basically. Like they need
Yeah,
to
but this was
have.
before they patented before it was even released, before COVID-19 even started.
Well, yeah, because it's
Like this
part of
was a patent
the
that
like
predated
SARS
COVID.
COVID-1 kind of thing, right? Like it's
Yeah, but to um have a genetic sequence that's specific
yeah,
patented, it would be astronomical if it was a coincidence, or even in the same virus like genus, it would
yeah,
not it would not even be a coincidence. So it had to be specifically, and they had the I believe the CEO of Moderna on a talk show, and he would not even answer the question. So it's very sketchy.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing is like the people that kind of watch the shows that these people show up on are the people that are known to not ask questions. So when they're on a show and someone asks a question, the
Right.
people watching the show are like, "Well, that was rude. Like, why would you ask that?" And it's like that's the whole fucking point of them being on the show, so
Not
people
me.
can ask questions.
You know that fucking Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's like got a beer in his hand, he's pointing at the TV. That's me. I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
Ask the fucking hard questions, man. I want to know.
yeah.
But
But
yeah,
like,
softball questions. Nobody gets better softball questions than Biden, man. Biden gets the most softball fucking questions, like underhand. You might as well be rolling those fucking things along the dirt. But yeah, I gotta go. But I'll leave you with this. Okay, so 2019, November 2019, both of my parents who are like in their 70s at the time, both get super super sick with what is like a cold, but it's like a respiratory virus,
right.
and they're like super sick. I've never seen them more sick in my life, and I was like around them. I was like, yeah, like just you know try to like get rest, fluids, chicken soup, whatever. And they get really sick, and they're fine about like 2 weeks later, and then like 2 months later, all of a sudden COVID hits. So
Yeah.
I almost think that they both had it because they haven't had COVID since. So I'm thinking that it already got leaked beforehand and it was already spreading around before the actual official proof that it got spread around. And I believe that they got it. And that's why I think they haven't got it since because they've been immune to it. I'm not sure
Well,
why I haven't got it.